Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Ukraine's Enormous Potential. My name is Emily Channel Justice and I'm the director of the Temerty Contemporary Ukraine program at Harvard University's Ukrainian Research Institute. And I'm really excited today to co-host this event with the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. If you've been following Ukraine for the past few years, then you know that one of the most essential issues that's up for debate right now is that of judicial reform. And if you've been following Ukraine in the past month or so, then you've seen major upheaval around the Constitutional Court that has really brought these issues back into the focus. And so today we're really glad to have joining us several experts on this issue and other reforms around judicial reform. I'll briefly introduce everyone and then turn it over to Melinda Herring from the Atlantic Council. So first we're joined by Dr. Anders Aslund, who's a resident senior fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center. We're also joined by Zlata Simonenko, who is a lawyer in a private practice in Kyiv, and her views that she expresses today are her personal views and don't represent her organization. We're also joined by Yaroslav Yurchishin, who's a member of the Holus Party and Verkhovna Rada's Anti-Corruption Committee. And last but not least, we have Mikhailo Zhernakov, who is the chair of the board at the Jure Foundation, which is an organization focused on judicial reforms. So thanks so much for joining us, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Emily, for that cogent introduction. We are so happy to work with you all, and I'd like to welcome everyone on this webinar. I don't think it's an overstatement by any stretch of the imagination to say that this is the major domestic issue in Ukraine right now, and it's one that Ukraine has to get right. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy pledged that 2021 would be the year of judicial reform in Ukraine, and we're going to take him at his word. So we've brought together a great panel today to explain what Ukraine needs to do next. Let me start with Yaroslav. Yaroslav, why is President Zelenskyy pledging to reform the courts now? Is this a result of the constitutional crisis that Emily mentioned and the black eye that Ukraine received? Is it a PR effort or something that we should take seriously?
Really, when we're talking about reform from the president's side, it's not reform, it's just pretending to do something. Mr. Zelenskyy twice trying to do even not reform in general meaning, but changing in selection process of our judges. But as a result, we're losing part of this procedure. First of all, we lose high qualification commission of judges and don't even create a new procedure of this selection body for judiciary. And few maybe months ago, we losing Public Integrity Council, our expert body, which help us to select judges and give opinion who from candidates are appropriate for this position. So really, we need judiciary reform. And it was promise of even candidate of presidential candidate Zelenskyy before the previous presidential election. And Mikhailo and his colleagues who worked from NGO side have like a statement agreement between NGO and president that yes, we will change procedure. We create a new high qualification commission of judges. We create a new system of selection, which give us possibility to have access to justice. What we have after 2 years of this presidency, we have rebuilding our justice system, because now we have not justice, but administrative center for government, to have a good decision for them. If, for example, in Ministry of Interior Affairs, Mr. Avakov needs some guys who are not appropriate because he in lustration schedule after Revolution of Dignity, but he Avakov needs this guy. So it's a really necessary stone in our building. He come to court, and through several days he received a decision that yes, these guys now are not lustrated in general. But in the same time, we have several district courts where we don't have even one judges who can take decision. So we need to take these judges from our district and set up to this court, because ordinary people don't have access to justice. Why? Because the selection process are stopped, are frozen, not work in general. So I don't believe President Zelenskyy. Why? Because yes, he give us promise as citizen. He give Mikhailo and NGO promise as candidate of president. He give our international partner promise. But yes, we have request from Venice Commission and we launch something. But still, we have the same situation, even day by day, worse situation. And I don't stop on that, but Mikhailo will talking what pretending of reforms will be proposed to Parliament, and I hope Parliament don't vote for that, after elaborating of the recommendation of Venice Commission in majority, in Zelenskyy team. So what we really have, we have very suitable, very, I can see, sensitive for request from the side of authority, judiciary, not judiciary, system of judges. Yes, we don't have equal access to justice for everyone. And yes, it's the most necessary reform for Ukraine. Why? Because when we're talking about land reform or constitutional reform or reform of Prosecutor General Office or other reform, all they come to judges. Why? Because if we have some discussion, we come to court and try to receive decision. We don't have justice. Because of that, yes, it's one of main priority, and one of main priority of society, of our international partners. And when we listen our president, it's the main priority for president. But 2 years, nothing. So because of that, I don't believe that without pressure, we will have some decision in that year. But when it will be a sandwich effect, pressure from international partners and pressure from civil society part, I hope we will have not list all, but something.
Thank you, Yaroslav, for that very passionate interjection. That's why we're here today. That's why we're having this conversation to remind everyone of the promises that were made and what needs to be done. So let me turn to Anders. Anders, the constitutional crisis last year effectively killed the public asset declaration system. This was the system that required Ukraine's public officials to disclose their assets online in an e-declaration. And this had been a key demand of the IMF after the Maidan. What does this mean for Ukraine's relationship with international financial institutions?
Well, this means that the IMF takes a very negative view of Ukraine. And you can say that this is a bit strange, given that Ukraine's macroeconomic situation is now better than it has been since 2011 at least. Reserves are large and with a big current account surplus, unlike a deficit, and the budget is in reasonable shape. But the big problem in Ukraine is that you don't have property rights. There are two numbers that stand out for me from last year. Only $200 million of foreign direct investment during the first 10 months last year, which is essentially nothing. Ukraine should have several $billions of foreign direct investment each year. 5 to 10 billion would be a normal number, and now it's literally nothing. And the other is 751 reported cases of corporate dredging during the first 9 months, more than the previous year. So the simple observation is that people don't trust property rights in Ukraine. They don't see that they can maintain a company, and therefore neither Ukrainians nor foreigners are really investing in Ukraine. And of course, the IMF sees this and say, we are not only a source of cheap financing. We want to promote economic reform in Ukraine so that Ukraine can actually grow. There's no possibility for the economy really to grow under these circumstances. Ukraine today is the poorest country in Europe. It has fallen below Moldova in terms of GDP per capita in dollar terms, and that's a shame. And I can't say that the government seems very concerned about it.
Anders, let me ask you a broader question. I think that Yaroslav put it well. He said judicial reform has stalled. What does this mean for Ukraine's reform project? Is it dead? And if it's dead, how can we bring it back to life?
Well, I should really pass this on to the lawyers on the call. The system is enormously complicated. So the short of it is that a lot of senior judges are protecting one another whenever the politicians, as President Zelenskyy rightly did, try to go after one of them, the Constitutional Court, the others defend one another. And I would take 3 of the most harmful bodies, the Constitutional Court, which now has 15 judges, it should be 18. 11 of these are openly voting for corruption, and they have taken down 2 of the 4 anti-corruption agencies. So the anti-corruption network doesn't work, which is key for the IMF and which is key for Ukraine's legal development. And the second awful body is the Higher Council of Justice, which is blocking all development, and it is really in charge of the whole judicial system, if I remember rightly, with 20 members. And the third is the Higher Council of Qualifications of Judges, which is least equally defined. And then we can go on among various courts that are not doing their job, and they're all protecting each other, and they are then also protected by the Constitution. Of course, they are written, the main ones are written into the Constitution, and the Venice Commission is the only international institution, and it's very soft. It is just a commission under the Council of Europe. The Council of Europe is a toothless interparliamentarian body. So what should happen here is that the US should engage heavily to try to get Ukraine right, as was the case under Obama and Biden. So this is my only hope, really.
Your only hope is that the new president-elect Biden and his team will get involved and prioritize judicial reform in Ukraine.
Indeed.
Okay, great. Zlata, let's turn to you. Thank you for joining us. This is your first Atlantic Council panel. It's wonderful to have you. Eventually, the Rada found a compromise for putting a public asset declaration system back into place last year before Christmas. Many found this compromise unsatisfactory and worry that the Constitutional Court can remove the powers of the anti-corruption body yet again. How likely is that?
First of all, thank you for invitation for such a great discussion. And speaking about our, I may say, constitutional crisis in Ukraine, I may say that, first of all, it was one of the biggest victory when we established this law about electronic asset declaration system in Ukraine. And when we found out about such decision of Constitutional Court, actually a lot of experts were a little bit shocked. If we discuss now already changed the law and how we tried to include all comments that Constitutional Court gave to us. I may say that Constitutional Court has the highest power in Ukraine, and its combination of theory, legislation, and some principles that they think that they need to use when they consider some cases. And yes, I think that it's possible to find some maybe small comments, and as a result, Constitutional Court also may remove all changes and say that one more time you need to change this law about electronic asset declaration system in Ukraine. But if we will see and if we will actually read the previous Constitutional Court decision, we may say that it was not so we cannot find a lot of arguments and a lot of explanations why we actually had to change this law, because it was not so critical and key changes that we had to provide in this law, and it was not like so break the constitution that we even cannot use this law with the previous amendments to this law. For me, I think that we have a lot of possibilities that in the nearest future our Constitutional Court may change and say that and also provide a new decision that we need to change also the newest law about asset declaration system.
Okay, great, thank you. Anders, you already outlined the relationship between the enforcement of property rights and FDI very clearly, and you told us about the FDI figures in 2020. But I'd like to ask you one more question. You speak to many businesses, you're in Ukraine a lot. What do businesses tell you that they want in terms of enforcement in court? What would be a minimal standard?
Well, the European Business Association did a survey a few months ago among their members, and they mentioned the problem of the court's decisions as the main problem. For example, Kiev-Pechersk Court, which is the main city court at the lowest level in Kiev, is considered to be utterly corrupt. So certain people get their matters through immediately as they desire. And the appeal court, the next level, normally sorts it out in a sensible fashion, but not always. And but that takes many months to get that process through, to have it revoked. And if you don't have a functioning city court in Kiev even functioning in any relevant regard, then you are in big trouble. So it costs a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and it's through the courts that provide this corporate raiding, that is theft of companies.
Thanks, Anders. And now I'd like to turn to Mihailo Jernikov, and his organization has published an outstanding report on what Ukraine needs to do to establish a truly independent judiciary. It's called Ukraine's Judicial Reform Map, and we're going to paste it below in English. It's also in Ukrainian. Mihailo, let's start with the top court that we've been discussing, the Constitutional Court. Its decisions can't be reversed. Anders already outlined the membership structure. In your view, in the expert community's view, what should be done to fix the Constitutional Court after this really wacky decision last October?
Thank you very much, Melinda. Thank you very much, everybody. Very happy to be here. And just wanted to share very quickly, another link to really very similar ideas, but these were shared with Mr. Zelenskyy and his team, exactly like Yaroslav mentioned, before he became president, when he was running for presidency. And these are exactly the same ideas that we were talking about for years now, to relaunch the governance bodies. First of all, the High Qualification Commission of Judges and the High Council of Justice, as Dr. Aslan mentioned already. That's number one, that it should be done by all means, and it's not yet done. And then to get our administrative courts right, to get the rest of the judiciary, and probably the most important now, the Constitutional Court. Because even back then, we talked to Zelenskyy personally and told him of all the perils, of all the things that the Constitutional Court can do to undermine reforms and to really reverse the achievements. And he seemed to understand back then. And then this judicial reform roadmap is actually a tool on what exactly should be done on a legislative level to considering all the experience that Ukraine had, all the failures, all the successes, the anti-corruption court that was a success, the reform of the Supreme Court that was not a success, the rest of the judiciary that was not, unfortunately, a success. So we incorporated all that and said, look, this is what should be done in order to prevent the backslide and in order to progress with the reforms. Unfortunately, again, we're not yet there, and very little is done to really change the situation. When it comes to the Constitutional Court, the problem is, as it is with the rest of the judiciary, the way we select our judges and the way we treat them. Basically, everything that comes with judicial career is done in the wrong way in Ukraine. The good judges, the whistleblower judges, the judges who issue good decisions and who are really independent, which is quite hard to begin with in Ukraine, they are prosecuted. They are really the High Council of Justice and the judicial mafia that really captured the whole system really makes their life even harder. And when it comes to the judges that should be dismissed, that should be prosecuted, they're not prosecuted, they're kept to their positions because it is very tempting, it is very good for, so to say, for those who are in power to have judiciary as their tool to achieve their political agenda rather than an independent unit, an independent system of checks and balances that will check up on them and that will make them, hold them accountable and make them really follow the law. So this is kind of the underlying logic, I think, of the oligarchs and those who control Ukraine and those who want to influence Ukraine, Russia included, and not included probably number one, if we're talking about the perils, if we're talking about those who really want to undermine Ukraine and really make it a non-country, which is Russia's dream, and how they use corruption in courts. So this is actually how, what I'm saying is, our enemies, those who are against the progress in Ukraine, those who want to undermine Ukraine, they're using this judicial corruption, they're using the absence of the reform to block the development and to really block this unfolding of this enormous potential that we're talking about.
Thanks, Mihailo. What specifically should be done, though, to fix the court as it stands now, that the highest court?
So like we said, like we already discussed, the problem is the way we select the judges. And it's something that the Venice Commission pointed out very explicitly in their latest opinion about the constitutional crisis in Ukraine. They said that we've known this problem for years now. And back in 2016, we introduced in the Constitution the rule for open competitive selection of the judges of the Constitutional Court. So they are not politically dependent. They are not appointed by the politicians and the oligarchs. But it only remained in the Constitution. It was never described properly or regulated properly in the legislative framework. So there's no competition, actually. The constitutional rule is not followed. The competition, just to give you one example, first of all, the competition that is held in the Rada, in the parliament, only the factions of the parliament can introduce candidates to this competition. So you have to be politically connected to even begin the competition. And then they even fail to check on the formal requirements because you have to have 15 years of experience. And one of the candidates that was voted recently in the Rada, luckily he did not get enough votes, but he only graduated 6 years ago from a legal school, and he never a single day in his life worked in a legal position. So that is how bad this competition really is. So what should be done is we should introduce the competitive selection procedure with a panel that would include international experts. The Venice Commission says probably former members of the European Court of Human Rights. Why not? And they say also the civil society of Ukraine should be included. They say, for example, Public Integrity Council members. And this way we can have a good panel that would pre-screen, pre-select these competitors, and we will have a good composition, say 50 people apply and 37 are there, and after the selection, all the rigorous procedures that the Competition Commission gets them through. And then out of these 37, the president, the parliament, and the Congress of Judges may elect whoever they will. And that's the way it should be. And that's what we propose, and that's what the Venice Commission proposes. But unfortunately, that is something that the parliament and the president are not ready now to implement, because it's been months since the crisis started, and there's been about 36 legislative proposals registered in the Rada, but none of them really tackles in a proper way the selection procedure yet.
Thanks, Mihailo. That was really easy to understand, because Andres is right. This process is really complicated. You need flow charts to understand it.
It is really.
Yaroslav, question for you. So the URA's report makes a really big deal out of judicial selection committees and the importance of including international experts, as Mihailo and the Venice Commission have outlined. Can you please remind us, there was a renewal of the Supreme Court, and then there was also the selection of the High Anti-Corruption Commission. Which one had international experts, and what was the difference in the results?
Excuse me, if I may very quickly jump in, I just failed to mention that we very much respect and very much like to cooperate with Holos faction, who are really supportive of our ideas. Unfortunately, other factions of the parliament are not. I was criticizing the parliament, Yaroslav. That was not aimed at you, obviously. Sorry to interrupt, but that was important.
Thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to work with our partners from NGO side, because the majority of our initiatives in Parliament, it's that previously was proposed our partners. So we have two body in our justice system where we have some percentage of involving international partners or our NGO partners, NGO experts, independent NGO experts. First of all, in selection process of Supreme Court, on the first stage, we have a very good possibility of our Public Integrity Council, which are selected from our NGO partners, have good possibility to help in selection process. But after that, regulation of this process was changed by our High Council of Judges and High Qualification Commission of Judges, sorry. And after that, the possibility to influence on process in selection procedure was minimized. It's a problem, because when our NGO partners, NGO structure can influence, they influence directly and give us a good result in general. Maybe we can elaborate a better procedure, more tough procedure of creation of Public Integrity Council, but till now, it's one body which have high level of trust and possibility to influence. But many of our judges deny even possibility to involve Public Integrity Council in a procedure and try to minimize influence of this body. Second possible scenario is Public Council of International Experts, which was created especially for selection process of high anti-corruption, of judges of high anti-corruption court. In that process, we took even better result. But why? Not because it was our international partners, because we analyzed previous experience and give very tough possibility involve to influence of this body on process. So without decision of this council, any candidate don't have possibility to be appointed in the future. So if our Public Integrity Council will have the same possibility as our international partners, I can say that we will have the same result in our Supreme Court. But in Supreme Court and in high qualification, high anti-corruption court, we have better result than in our when we involve in procedure of selection just judges or just some judiciary experts. Why? Because they have some connection with judges. Because of that, we really need some independent filter, which not take a final decision. Final decision can take only Ukrainian institution, and we don't even propose to give the final decision of appointment of judges to somebody else. So we have this structure, but we really need additional filter, independent filter, professional filter, which who are not have connection with this actual system, because any system don't have possibility to renovate themselves. We're trying in prosecutor general office, in our structure, only new people with new rules and new mechanism. Thus it will be international partners. It will be better. Why? Because after international partners, so we see our international partners on a global level, and I totally agree with Andras. We have very good possibility to renew our trying to have something in judiciary with connection with new presidential administration in USA, and majority of people who have connection better understand what we have in Ukraine in general. But if we give this possibility, which have our international partners in procedure of creation high anti-corruption court to our Ukrainian experts, we will have the same result. The main what we need is possibility to direct influence on procedure, not like consultation, not like proposal, but it can be accept or not accept. So it must be some additional direct filter. Yes, we have some discussion about how it will be linked with our constitution, but still we have anti-corruption court, we have Supreme Court, and it's totally constitutional in general. So if we find some mechanism, it can help us to have result maybe in perspective of 2 or 3 years in general.
Great, thank you so much, Yaroslav. Mihailo, please summarize the other 3 requirements that you have in the report. You laid out 4 basic requirements for a free judiciary, and then I'm going to ask Zlata, our other attorney, if your plan makes sense from a legal perspective. So go ahead, Mihailo.
Thank you. So first and foremost, the Constitutional Court. The other 3 are the judicial governance bodies, because they are in charge of the career of the rest of the judges, which is not less important. Then the administrative courts, because lately, as we know, the decisions of the District Administrative Court of Kyiv have been also in the spotlight, but not for all the good reasons. And we really have to change the way we approach the administrative jurisdiction. And we have to cleanse the rest of the courts, and which would be a second stage after we tackle judicial governance, because again, we have to have good commissions that select judges, and we have to have good commissions that vet judges, and then we can proceed with the renewal of the rest of the courts. That unfortunately, I have to say, this process was failed basically under Poroshenko presidency. So that I have to say, these 4 things, again, the Constitutional Court, the judicial governance bodies, the administrative courts, and basically the vetting of the rest of the courts, and the selection of the new judges to the rest of the courts, or renewal of the rest of the courts. Those are essentials. There's a lot of other problems, the enforcement of court decisions, and the prosecution, and many others. But this is just a basement, or kind of a foundation without which you really can't build many more things.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mihailo. That was extremely well done. Zlata, Does what he's outlined make sense from a legal perspective? Is he missing anything that you would say is foundational to a free judiciary?
Thanks for the question. I also want to add some information about High Anti-Corruption Court and Supreme Court, because I represent the clients also in Supreme Court and High Anti-Corruption Court. Moreover, I took part in this, I was like legal assistant to the international expert in the public international expert council who actually selected the judges to High Anti-Corruption Court. And I think that this procedure should be provided for all judicial system in Ukraine. It really helped to choose maybe better judges who have actually more skills, more knowledge in law and legislation, and understanding the whole system, how Ukraine actually works. Moreover, I may say that I think that President Zelenskyy, when he started to attack Supreme Court in the beginning of his actually work, it was a big mistake, because the Supreme Court, it's not the worst court in Ukraine. We have a big issue with the courts, regional courts, administrative court in Ukraine, and we need to change. And I think that the Euro, they made a big work and good understanding how it's better to provide in Ukraine this judicial reform. And I may support the idea of Mikhail and Yaroslav that we need to provide the international experts in our councils, in our commission committees. I don't know which form it should be better for now, but it should be. We should include international experts in our commission, because they may provide for our higher standards for judicial and judges than we have now in Ukraine.
Thanks a lot, Zlata. Yaroslav, how politically feasible is de Jure's beautiful plan? You said maybe in the next 2 to 3 years. What are your thoughts on that?
Sorry, it's not really ours. It's posted. I'm jumping in. I'm very sorry, but I think it's important to put, and always before Yaroslav. Sorry, Yaroslav. It's important to point out that it's not only our work. It's on our website, and we put a lot of effort in it. But it's also a common work of the NGOs that work in the judicial reform field: Anti-Corruption Action Center, Alta Maidan, CPLR, Transparency International Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you. So, sorry, I'm just trying to save words, Mihailo. There's many NGOs that are behind this, and a lot of thought that's been put into it. Go ahead, Yaroslav.
So, if shortly trying to answer on your question, it's unreal. Now we have a very tough discussion about sovereignty. So many of my colleagues from other fractions try to pretend that Ukrainian but corrupt judiciary system is the main. It's like a cornerstone of our sovereignty. I don't joke. It's reality. Mihailo can say it. It's real discussion in our committee. But we have many situations in our history. Then our political, I don't have other word, but political elites began to understand the real situation only after the joint work of our NGO sector, investigative journalists, and our international partners. Then our government, who now really don't understand the problem, what we can have if we don't have good communication and collaboration with IMF and our international finance and organization, understand that without judiciary, at least without a real changing in process of selection judges, we don't have any collaboration, or we have so little possibility to collaboration what needs just for fighting Ukraine against Russia, because yes, we country in war. We don't can forget about this, and any collaboration with our international partners, we must start and finish with, yes, we have problem with judiciary, but this problem its second problem after problem of war. But Russia are easily using our corrupt judiciary system, and we easily see that in decision of our constitutional courts, because many of these decisions have direct connection with Russia interest. And about private bank, about our anti-corruption structure. So if we will work close and we have tough statement that yes, civil society says that judiciary is a first place priority. International, our experts said yes, we need additional international filter in the procedure of selection. All judges, I totally agree with Zlata. It's the best way that we really can. And it's temporary, really temporary decision what we need, because we change structure. After that, okay, we can use other Ukrainian body for selection. But now we on a step of cleaning system. And when we want to cleaning system, we need some additional international part. And yes, if we have this joint pressure, as we have after Revolution of Dignity, as we have in several times of our history, yes, we can have result even with this parliament. Their discussion about sovereignty are more tough than discussion about corruption in the judiciary system.
Thanks, Yaroslav. I was waiting for you, that note of optimism. I'm glad to hear it. Now it's your turn, audience. Thank you for joining us. Please start typing your questions. I've got a few. You can also send them on Twitter if you're watching on Twitter. First question, and I think the best person to answer this one is probably Mihailo and Zlata. This is from former Ambassador Roman Washuk. He says, can the operating principle of reasonable doubt about integrity as applied by international experts in he calls it the HACC selection process, be used in other selection processes? Zlata, do you want to go first, and then Mihailo?
Yeah, okay. I may say yes. It was this principle actually used during this procedure which we had during High Anti-Corruption Court, and moreover, it worked, as we saw a lot of judges who couldn't actually answer on questions from international experts and who couldn't explain their assets, their money, their some mistakes in their work. They couldn't pass the process and they were not appointed in their position. It really helped us to choose maybe not the best judges in Ukraine, but we tried to choose the better than we possibly might have during this process. I think that we may use in our judicial reform this principle in all our judicial reform. Yes.
Okay, terrific. Mihailo, 2 thumbs up.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's an excellent question. Thank you, Ambassador Washuk, and hi. It's very just have a lot of memories on how we all try to tackle the judiciary in Ukraine. Yes, it is a cornerstone, I think, of these selection and vetting processes. This standard, because for years it was like this. So what that we have, I don't know, mansions and cars and luxury yachts and whatever else. It doesn't matter that our salary is, I don't know, $300. You did not catch us red-handed, hence we're innocent. And as we all know, in the developed countries, there is a presumption. If you're a public servant, you have to prove the legality of your assets. If the question arises and you cannot prove it and you cannot disprove it, and cannot dismantle the questions that arise, the issues that we have with your property or your prior decisions, then you're not fit for their job. As simple as this. Because otherwise you will never. It's not a criminal investigation. It is a competition. You have to prove yourself that you are better than the other competitors, and it is something that is really, really important, because otherwise we have this problem, and unfortunately we did not quite crack it with the competition to the Supreme Court and the rest of the judiciary, but it is really something that we should be applying now a lot in order to cleanse the system and establish the rule of law. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Next question from Matthew Piskar. He says, what do you make of the head of the High Anti-Corruption Court allegedly meeting with Pavlo Vovok And make sure to explain who Pavlo Vovik is. Has the High Anti-Corruption Court been compromised? If so, how should the Ukrainian government and civil society react? I'm going to ask all three of the Ukrainians that. Let's go to Zlata first, then Mihailo, then Yaroslav, and then I have a question for Anders. Go ahead.
Actually, I think that we need to get, first of all, the real evidence of this meeting, because until now we don't have a normal and proper explanation from the head of the High Anti-Corruption Court about this meeting. Actually, I need to clarify who is the Pavel Vovk. Actually, the judge, ex-judge of Administrative Court of Kiev, and now he's under the suspicion from National Anti-Corruption Bureau. And yesterday it was information about this meeting, the head of Anti-Corruption Court with this person. Until now, we don't have a proper evidence of this meeting, but at the same time, I think that civil society actually yesterday they reacted on this meeting, and after we will have the proper explanation of this meeting or evidences, we should understand what our next steps should be in this issue.
Wonderful, wonderful. Gentlemen, do you have anything different to say, or can I move to the next question? No?
Yeah, I think it sums it up. I just may have heard it wrong, but it's important to know that Pavlo Vovk is the head, still the judge, and is the head of the District Administrative Court, and he's a very powerful figure, if not the most powerful in the Ukraine's judiciary, and not for the good reasons. He's the kind of the kingpin of the whole judicial mafia. That's what it's actually.
So yeah, we really have a joke that really President Zelenskyy is one of president in time of Pavlo Vovk, because Pavlo Vovk now are more influential in creation some schemes and influential in different level of our state that's even actual president. So it's reality. Ukrainian justice create like a hidden state, and its government, hidden government, more influential because they can dismiss, for example, Ministry Ulana Suprun, or trying to do that, or can stop investigation, or can replace investigation against from NABU to special services. It's really very influential and corrupt person. And I can only add that head of our High Anti-Corruption Court really new person in that level of judiciary. And I can think that this meeting was really mistake. Any person can have possibility to make mistake, but if understanding of these steps and response of these steps will be appropriate. So I hope that it was very big but mistake, and we solve it in general, and agree with Zlata. We need additional evidence to understand what really happened.
Wonderful, thank you. Anders, what can the West do to push for real judicial reform? And thinking about the next Biden administration, should all non-military assistance be tied to concrete steps to clean up the courts?
Well, I think that this is the critical one, but I would like to elaborate a bit upon what Yaroslav talked about, these different principles for justice. There are two big issues here. One is integrity versus independence. The other is national versus international. And these need to be combined by the outside forces in a proper way. So what we have today is a court system with thousands of corrupt judges. Zlata said that the Supreme Court is not the worst. No, it's only 44 out of about 200 Supreme Court judges who failed the integrity check, while in the Constitutional Court, it's 11 out of 15 current judges who vote for corruption. So then we can see that the Constitutional Court is far more corrupt than the Supreme Court, but actually quite often passes reasonable judgments. So what is needed here is but we use this extraordinary transparency that we have. We know who is corrupt and who's not, thanks to the extraordinary transparency in Ukraine, thanks to the asset declarations that have existed, and thanks to NABU's investigation. So what we want to have, as Yaroslav suggested, we want foreign judges to come in and just use the available evidence and kick out the obviously corrupt judges, so that you get integrity before you get independence. As it is today, the Constitution guarantees these various judicial bodies massive independence. So they have independent right to be corrupt. And we can't get at them if we don't make some exception from the Constitution. And this is where we would like to have the foreign qualification committee. And then I think that Yaroslav was quite right. We must have a Ukrainian decision afterwards on who is actually appointed. So we want the foreigners to disqualify the corrupt judges, which is obvious very often. And then we want Ukrainian authorities with integrity to approve in the end. Then you can have some independence of the judicial system. So this needs to be done, and leaving the ultimate verdict to the domestic ones. So I think that the US should take over when it comes to disqualifying corrupt judges. The Venice Commission is very ambiguous. It does not want to go against anything in the Constitution. And the Constitution guarantees the independence of these corrupt bodies, which makes the Venice Commission's judgment ambiguous and unstable. And then, as I think everybody has pointed out, this Pavlovka and the Kiev Regional Administrative Court, it should be taken away. It has no right of existence. It's a very odd thing, and this must be the right of the government and the parliament to legislate that this is not a right thing to do. And the European Union, nobody has mentioned here, and I think that's rightly so, because the European Union has not shown anything. We have also a problem that there are too many experts from the European Union now in Kiev, and they want to stay there. So they say the Ukrainian reforms are going wonderfully. How can you complain about them? We get such nice salaries from these Ukrainian reforms. So why not let us continue here and work for the future of Ukraine? This is what you often get when you have aid workers who are really working for themselves.
Thanks, Anders. Provocative as always. Thank you very much. Question for Zlata. So Vitaly Shabunin, who's the head of the Anti-Corruption Action Center, had something very bad happen to him. Two very bad things happened to him last year. His house was burned down in an arson attempt. And then right around Christmas time, our Christmas, a bomb was placed outside of his mother's home, or his mother's apartment. Can you tell us, as a lawyer, how likely is the prosecution of those who placed the bomb outside of his mother's house? And what is the attitude in Kiev? Are people worried? Are they interested in prosecuting these attacks to the fullest extent of the law?
I may say, as a criminal lawyer, it's very difficult to push actually national police with the prosecution office to investigate such criminal cases, and moreover, to find people who are really committed such crimes. As I know, and I also took part pro bono in some similar cases with the activists, with the people who injured, it's very difficult to prove, and after that also to find really people who committed such crimes. And without power from national police or prosecution office, as the lawyer, you cannot do anything with this case. That's why I think that already passed enough time for such investigation, and we cannot see any result from national police or prosecution office who committed these crimes, who actually wanted to commit or who wanted to show for Vitaly Shabunin that his activity is so high that he is very important for some reforms of cases, that I think that until even next year we will not find out who really committed this crime, and we will not see any result of investigations of such cases.
That's unfortunate. Thank you very much, Zlata. Appreciate your experience. Mihailo, you get the last question. This is from a gentleman named Martin. He says, as a foreigner living in Ukraine, I don't know a lot about the Ukrainian legal system, but I'm passionate about reforms and I have some free time. What can I do to help Ukraine reach its reforms goals?
Thank you very much. That's an excellent
telephone number.
Yeah, why not? That's an excellent question. I think I can send the link now. We have a couple of minutes. We have something that we call Justice League with the Euro, which is basically a club of our friends who can help us by, I don't know, donating not only money, but their time, their whatever they can, basically. So thank you very much for that. And if you're interested, I can for sure send you the link right now.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yaroslav, anything else we should be watching in the Parliament on judicial reform in the next month or so?
Really, I hope, yes, that we will have a decision not only from the side of Parliament, but still President have possibility to rebuild our administrative court where Pavlo Volk is ahead, because previous president don't use this possibility, and now we have a problem not only with this court but with constitutional court. I hope that we will launch, we will elaborate with our international and our NGO partners good procedure to selection of our constitutional judges. I hope it will be a good news, but still we need a pressure from the side of civil society and international partners to have this decision. So really, we in Ukraine, we don't have problem. We don't have like a big problem. We have big challenges, and with your help, with help of in our triangle, business, pro-reformistic government and politicians, and our NGO, we can solve that. Maybe in not short period, in not short perspective, but still. And I thank for your help. Really, after discussion on your side, like this panel, we have more active discussion in Ukraine. So I want to say to say thanks for Atlantic Council and everyone from international society who really interested in Ukraine and help us in fighting with Russia, first of all, and with corruption in judiciary in general.
Thank you, Yaroslav. We've been at this for a long time. You can count on our support. This is not an easy issue. We're going to be here for the long haul. Thank you for joining us. Thank you to Yaroslav, to Zlata, to Anders Oslin, and to Mihailo. We will be sending the reports around in Washington. We will be encouraging the next administration to take on this issue. We will be giving them your telephone numbers, so be ready when they call. I'd like to thank our partners at the Temerty Contemporary Ukraine program at Harvard University. It's always a pleasure to work with you, Emily. Thank you to my wonderful colleagues. Andrew was the lead on this one. Until next time, we look forward to working with you and bringing the Ukrainian community together again on Zoom until the COVID era is over. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend. And until next time, bye-bye.